Big news today on global liquidity and what that might mean for Bitcoin, and of course, what this could mean for the crypto markets. We'll break it all down for you guys. You don't want to miss it. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Thanks for coming in on the live stream, of course, today. We appreciate that. Let us know, and I think most of you probably know that we try to do our live streams around 3 p.m., so Eastern time if you're catching this after. Do you like the live streams? If you do, make sure and hit the like button. At least it will get the live out there to where more people will know it's happening. And you'll get notifications when we actually go live if you hit that little bell. So do that, and we'll get into it. I want to go over to a couple of tweets here. We'll just start with that. And before we get started, hang on just a second. Let me jump back here and thank our sponsor. And that, of course, is Coinbase. If you guys are looking to get into crypto maybe for the first time and maybe you haven't bought your first token just yet, make sure and jump over to Coinbase.com and check that out. Of course, the future of money is here. Most trusted place for people and businesses to buy and sell crypto. Use our link because it's going to give you a little bit of a bump in bonuses, up to $200 in crypto just by using our link. So check it out down below and we'll go from there. I want to go over to a couple of points as I hit on there, and one of them was this tweet right here from Matt Hogan. Two takeaways from the CPI. Obviously, we saw the CPI numbers come in somewhat on point, but I think people were saying, well, it is a little bit softer. But this, in his position, he's saying that the Fed will start cutting rates in September, and 3% should be the new baseline for inflation, not 2%. So both are bullish for Bitcoin in general. And I think for the most part, I guess the real question, and we just did an episode, I don't know if we've put it up yet, with Lynn Alden, and she was talking about the variation of where the liquidity would come from, what this means, maybe not as a bullish sign overall, because this could still be a little bit of a slow recovery for the U.S. from a rate cutting point. So I guess the question is going to be, how much of a rate cut do we actually get in September? Other things I want to jump to, one is this clip right here, because this is kind of how the Fed is viewing this data that's coming in from the CPI. Take a look.
We're just talking about what the Fed opens with in terms of the size of the cut. What's your hunch?
So, Melissa, I think today's report, certainly good news. They want to continue to see disinflation continuing. I am not in the camp of thinking that a large cut in September is where they might land. Now, again, we'll see more data before their meeting, which may provide another for them. But this report, while good, still shows we have elevated inflation, and I think an economy that has been pretty resilient. So it gives them time to really think about how they calibrate. Well, I think the Fed's been pretty clear that they intend to get to 2%. I think they must do that because that is their stated target. The ability to anchor their inflation expectations really depends on doing that. So the question is really, how bumpy is the path to getting there? And everyone has gotten caught up in hoping that this is a soft landing story, and that may still very well be the case. But it does complicate for them really thinking about the speed, the time to that destination, even as they contemplate, and I suspect they are contemplating when the right time to cut is.
So a lot happening here in the sense that we could see a waffling Fed, even Polymarket kind of looking right now at the potential of a 25 basis points decrease. So a quarter point, 72% saying that's probably going to be the case in September. And I think the point that the analyst was making is that, yes, 3% is still a strong inflation. And I would say, yes, we're still seeing enough of the accumulation of inflation over the last 2 years that still is present in the overall price volatility of just markets in general. I'm not talking about investment markets, but what you are paying at the grocery store, et cetera. That is kind of baked into the economy right now. So if we were to see a slower wind down to a 2%, it could put us in a very tough spot. One, of course, we've started to see bankruptcies up in businesses and small businesses, housing also up in terms of delinquencies, credit also up at its highest ever, and of course the national debt at its highest ever. So these are not good things. These are not scenarios that play out. Jobs will be the big data point that I think makes the difference coming up next month in September, early September. I think September 8th is when we get that jobs report. I think that's the one to watch, because if we do come in soft on jobs expectations, meaning there's less people employed and fewer jobs to employ, then I think that might be the trigger factor that would maybe get the Fed still holding on a quarter basis points in September. But we'll see how this plays out. A couple of points right here I want to hit on. 2.8 trillion asset manager Goldman Sachs discloses a $418 million holding of Bitcoin ETFs. So again, more traditional finance moving into the place of what we all know has been the way to go in terms of digital assets. So I think that's positive overall. But if you look at, in general, the resiliency of this market, I think you have to look at Bitcoin just in general. 45% of Bitcoin's supply hasn't moved in 6 months, and also long-term holders seem pretty much unfazed by this market swings. And I know, yes, there's been you have to think about it. We're holding it around 60 right now, but coming off the 70K mark, seeing, a move into the 50s, well into the 50s, yeah, that could probably spook most people. But anybody that's really in Bitcoin, I think, is in a position just like what this chart is saying, and they're just not being phased overall. One thing, though, that is starting to look like it could be a bit of an issue right here is this somewhat cryptic tweet from Coinbase, and this was CBBTC. And we'll get into what this means. There's a couple of points here with Coinbase. The crypto community is speculating that CBBTC could be Coinbase's own wrapped Bitcoin product, potentially offering lower fees and increased DeFi collateral on the Ethereum and Layer 2 chains. Remember, Base, a Layer 3, potentially could be the destination. And Coinbase aims to build the Bitcoin economic system on the Base network. So this is starting to point at a lot of potential fallacies that could fall into the market, especially around liquidity. If you looked at what wrapped Bitcoin is doing, this was a couple of breakdowns also, and I'm going to get to a tweet here in a second, but I want to go on to the strength of Base. This, of course, talking about, this is Patrick Hansen. He's an analyst out of the EU who's been on our show before. Great Mika analyst, understood kind of where Mika was going prior to it, well in advance of it being passed. But a lot of things happening right now. EURC on Base is out there 2 weeks since the launch and starting to show some consistency over there, 40 million today in terms of growth in the market cap. And then you start to see liquidity on Aerodome, TopDex. You also see that Base is already supported by a lot of different protocols, including Uniswap, Token Terminal, et cetera, even CrossMint. So the point is there's a lot of momentum right now. The traction for on-chain Euro and on-chain exchanges through the Euro and the USDC is organic, and I think this is one that is important because it does start to create that solidity of what we'll see maybe here in the United States should we see favorable stablecoin regulation. And if you just look at where Base has been here recently, lots happening here in terms of growth. This is total addresses, just almost straight up. I mean, let me kind of zoom in on that for you guys. That's August right now. Just literally since April, that little bump right there, all to where we are right now. What is that, 28 million right there? Yeah, 28 million, 29 million total addresses, up from what was 4 million just going back to April. So you can see the acceleration kind of playing into this. So it does kind of lean into the idea that Coinbase could be involved in what the strategy might look like. And one of the points that Marty Party hit on here is that, and this is wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum. Stories unfolding, of course. It's backed by almost 10 billion native Bitcoin currently, multi-sig wallet. This is through BitGo. And I'm sure you guys have been following a little bit of what's been happening there and a little bit of the drama that's happening. But on August 11th, 2 days ago, according to the official blog of BitGo, they basically said they're creating a joint venture to diversify the wrapped Bitcoin custody and cold storage across multiple jurisdictions, so a lot of countries. And they're going to be moving the Bitcoin from BitGo to BiTGlobal in the next 60 days. So does this mean that 10 billion on a wrapped on Ethereum and Base could start to be basically unwound? All these loans, et cetera, collateralizations, et cetera, could happen during this period of time. The other thing that you kind of look at, and this is just on a side note that he's talking about here with Justin Sun, strategically involved in BiTGlobal. We've already seen some of the pushback from that. But projects like Zeus on Solana are fixing this, so that could be a run at it. And then you also look at, once again, the permission the permission bridges and wrap native tokens are not safe very easily. So of course, this puts a lot of pressure on Web3. And of course, this is one of the things that we've talked about before. So could Coinbase come in and swoop in as the hero and really become kind of the end-all be-all for liquidity in the markets? A couple other points that are hit on right here by Udi. And this, of course, is looking at Wrap Bitcoin versus Coinbase Bitcoin. Wars are going to be an absolute spectacle. Death nail about 500 EVM on Bitcoin Layer 2 startups that spun up in the last year. So that is true. That could be a scenario that could really affect a lot of these Layer 2s on Bitcoin. So, man, this is going to get very interesting. So this could actually be much different, maybe even similar to the effect on the market that even FTX had. So a lot of things. If you're into Wrap Bitcoin right now, maybe this is time to reconsider that position. Bitcoin CEO Mike Belshe on the situation with Wrap Bitcoin and Justin Sun. He went into a whole letter, but they basically are talking about, when you're starting to partner up with the wrong partners, these kind of scenarios that play out. We should probably have Belshe on to talk about this a little bit more. A couple other points right here is it's going to open up a couple other scenarios that where we could see Coinbase and Robinhood start to line up as basically the crypto juggernauts of how this may play out. So let me know, are you guys, where do you play in terms of your centralized exchange? Is it something that you really focus on right now with Coinbase, or are you looking into others, or are you primarily just living in the DeFi ecosystem? Always love to get you guys' feedback. Make sure and drop some comments over on the side, and I'll make sure that we can get to any questions. Let me double check and see if the guys have a link up here for our Q&A, and it looks like you do. Cool. So we'll try to get some questions in. Make sure and hit the poll right there. We'll get to a few points here. There are a lot of things happening between Coinbase and Robinhood in terms of the feature set. And the reason we talk about this is because you think about this cycle, there's going to be a lot of new people coming in to crypto for the very first time. Brand new, never bought a token, never joined an exchange, people that are starting to explore for the very first time. And it may be a scenario where we start to see this kind of thing play out, because you've got trading, Coinbase charging fees, Robinhood does not. Tokenization, Robinhood already a registered broker. Most people won't know that. Staking, though, both firms can monetize on platform via staking, but Robinhood is doing this already in Europe. I think, though, that would clearly open up here in the US if that occurs. Coinbase, of course, is allowing yields on USDC already. Stablecoin payments, Coinbase, very strategic there. Derivatives, I don't think that really plays into the people that are new into crypto, because this is, I think, would be the big one. Same thing with lending on crypto assets, probably a little bit less, but prime brokerage could get into it for institutions. So the point is this is lining up to be a very interesting, I think, competition between where the markets are going to go. We're going to get into, as I said, some questions, so make sure and drop those over on the side. And smash the like button. If you guys like these kind of live streams, let us know. We always love your feedback. I want to get into the political side of things, because this gets into the framework that I think a lot of us in crypto have been trying to understand. Now, you look at what's been happening in the Republican Party, albeit now starting to become a little bit more unstable. It appears, though, that there has been a big push right there at the Bitcoin conference, that it was very pro digital assets, Bitcoin, etc. Now we're starting to see a little bit of a movement from the Dems. And of course, this coming in from Eleanor Terrett. She's talking about basically the Crypto for Harris program. That's going to be happening tonight. So I don't know if you guys are hooked in on that, but it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because there's a lot of interesting speakers and very key speakers that will be attending. So this may give us some indication. I don't know to what extent the Harris campaign is involved. So that's the real question here, because we just need to hear, because even Terrett says this, it would be awesome to see and hear from the VP during the Crypto for Harris town hall tomorrow. I don't know. Do you guys think that Harris will attend this particular campaign? I don't think so. I think this is still a situation that is maybe weeks out before we actually get, possibly after the convention, before we ever get a mention of what happens with digital assets from the Dems. I might be a little bit more convinced if I see a positive showing tonight on this. This, of course, gets in if you were thinking that maybe Harris wanted to change the policy on crypto but didn't want to be seen copying a policy position from Trump, then, don't worry about that because it's already been done before, because there's been some scenarios around, the tip scenario that has played out. I'm sure all of you guys know what I'm talking about there in terms of Trump saying, hey, we're going to knock down tips, and Harris also adopting that campaign for taxes on tips against gig workers, etc. And I want to go to this one right here, because this is a clip that we'll go to that has Jeremy Allaire kind of hitting on that very same thing. And the thing that he's talking about here is not only crypto, but the elections themselves and how important it is right now. So listen to what he had to say.
As has been reported, I participated in a White House, and there were Harris folks involved as well, discussion last week. And what I can say is there is a concerted effort, both from the administration and the Harris campaign, to really get to know the issues, the players, the industry, the policy issues, et cetera. I think what the industry is looking for very, very clearly is clear statements. There's some move towards that, but is it too little too late?
And do you see a distinction between, Gary Gensler was appointed by this administration. Where do you see him playing in this situation?
There's a lot of discussion about Harris wanting to, build out her own cabinet, so to speak, if she were to win. Obviously, we know what President Trump would do. But I think, who are going to be...
Do you know what President Trump would do? That was the other question I was going to ask you, which is he's made a whole bunch of statements about Bitcoin. He went to the Bitcoin conference. But I don't know how deep he would even say he is, just in fairness, on these issues.
A lot of the people around him and his advisors and others have a somewhat sophisticated view on the topic.
There was some expectation or hope maybe that Donald Trump at the Bitcoin conference would say that he would want Bitcoin to be a reserve currency of some sort for the United States. Is that still alive?
I don't. He made a speech and he said, we won't sell our Bitcoin.
That would have an impact on you, I would imagine, no?
Digital currency dollars that are built on these technologies flourish around the world would absolutely benefit us. We think this is a key moment for dollar competitiveness, competing with China, competing in this geo-fractured world, and doing it responsibly.
All right, so Allaire, of course, the CEO of Circle USDC. And you think about this, I think he made some interesting statements there. One was when Andrew Ross Sorkin was kind of grilling him on the position of Trump, is that though there has been statements from Trump, we haven't seen really any clear policy outline. And I think a lot of that is because in most cases, you don't want to lay too much out on the line prior to the DNC, because I think the DNC is where, the kickoff occurs. Then you'll see real activity, possibly some real policy alignment at that point. And at the end of the day, we've got to have regulation. And I think that's the clarity that needs to come out of the Democrats. So maybe we're going to get to a point where we have a bipartisan position. And that would be great for the industry. I think it would be great for, digital assets and great for America, because I think it could push back into innovation coming back. Obviously, the United States, one of the largest crypto holding nations out there, at over 90 million people holding crypto right now in the United States. So that's a big deal. I want to go to another clip that hits on this, because there's still questions of whether or not the Republicans can pull this out of the bag, because many people are now looking at Trump being in a disadvantage. If you've looked at Polymarket anytime soon, just to give you an example, he's already down almost 8% underneath Harris. But I want to go to this clip because this talks a little bit more in detail about his current position. Take a look.
She's bringing out people who are not interested in voting for either Trump or Biden. So the entire electoral pool has changed. And if it continues in this direction, you have to start to consider Democrats winning the Senate and Democrats winning the House. The actual people who are participating, she's got intensity now. She's got an intensity advantage. She's got a demographic advantage. And I haven't seen anything like this happen in 30 days in my lifetime.
How big is that marginal extra voter that she's bringing in? How much does that change the pool?
1%, maybe 2%. That's it. But that's enough.
You start to think about the margin of error situation where maybe she's up 1 or 2%, but is the Trump vote fully counted?
But that's why my process is not just to do the numbers. It's also to do the focus groups, to listen, to understand why people feel this way. And now my groups are broken up by young women saying, I'm not voting for him anymore. Make no mistake, there are 3 attributes, 3 components.
So you think it's a switch? It's not, because you just said, I'm not voting for them anymore. So you think they were voting for Donald Trump, and now they're voting for Harris?
The people who are undecided have all collapsed towards Harris. The people who are weak Trump have all collapsed towards undecided. It's this broad shift.
I want to get to there within that is the scenario that's playing out here. Is there truly a silent majority? Is there one out there that Trump claims? And when you look at this has a big bearing because you're talking about 40% of the U.S. population that has a dog in the race when it comes to crypto policy. We already know what the Democrats have pushed upon us over the last 5 years. I think everybody here will understand how much money you've lost, possibly assets that have been completely demoralized outside of this bull run. Now, granted, if you've been in early, maybe that's a different story for you in most cases. But understanding if we're going to ever get a true breakout is really, I think, going to depend on some key movements. Maybe not necessarily policy that gets played into position, but it's definitely going to have some intention coming out of one of the parties, or both, for that matter. But I think the key here is still how much of the silent majority is out there that hasn't said anything, and whether or not, and one note is the analyst that he was talking about, Frank Luntz is the guy. He said something that was very interesting. He had never in his lifetime, he's been analyzing, I don't know, maybe 20 presidencies, I guess, if you look at that, and how they've done in the past, maybe him not personally, but analyzing it from an analyst standpoint, how did those candidates run? And his statement was he had never seen a move like this in 30 days in his lifetime. So it's just interesting to see the shift when we haven't really seen anything out of the Democratic camp other than a VP selection. So a lot happening. The next 90 days is going to be very, very busy. I think crypto is going to be right in the dead center of focus, and we need to really pay attention to what's happening out there. And if you have not got out there and voted for your own current lawmakers that are going to Capitol Hill for you, this is the time to do it. Check out Coinbase's crypto program because they get into a lot of things around stable crypto that analyzes a lot of these positions of where a lot of these lawmakers are. So I do want to get into some questions real quick. There was a couple of tweets I wanted to hit on here. This was the Stand for Crypto account right here, or excuse me, Stand for Crypto for Harris account. But you can kind of see, there's the lineup. Some of it, Scaramucci, Adam Schiff will be there. There's Dan Goldman, Sheila Warren, we had her on the show the other day. Don Davis, Richie Torres, very pro crypto. Cadet will be there, and a handful of others. I think there's some really good potential voices here that could be in a good position to align or at least educate some of the Democratic vote population as well as other lawmakers within it, and especially the Crypto for Harris campaign around what's happening and why we're in the position we are right now. So this is going to be a good one to watch. I think it comes on at 8 o'clock tonight. It'll be a space, I believe. So check it out over there. It's got a Zoom call. If you've registered in, if you haven't, I think it's probably available over there on their Twitter account. A couple other things I wanted to hit on. This was it MetaMask? Well, we'll skip on that, but I want to go over to the poll real quick and take a quick look at how it stands. All right, here we go. Which wrapped Bitcoin would you trust? Wow, Coinbase 35%. That's and then none, of course, 47%. So no wrapped Bitcoin is the winner. See, that's indicative, I think, of the PBN audience. So good for you guys. All right, let's go over to a couple of the questions. Mock Studio says the polls are BS. Well, I think the traditional polls are BS. The Polymarket poll, I'm very interested in. It is one that is a little bit different because this is everybody putting their money where their mouth is, you know. And now, granted, there isn't there's a lot of time left. We got 83 days, 9 hours, 32 minutes right now. Scootland says, would Trump allow full-blown Binance for lower fees? Or is that an oxymoron? Yeah, probably not. K. Bacon says, politics change and so does each political party. That's for sure. No doubt about that. But I think the key here is you got to get into a position for at least a position to where we get some sort of regulatory alignment. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, but at least you have to allow businesses to do business in the United States. How long before I start promoting more VC-backed crap like Tonecoin and ICP since he already promotes Solana? Well, I don't know, Fraudmaster. At least I do it up here with my real face and my real name, Fraudmaster. I love it when you guys give me these such great statements on the Q&A. Crypto King says, anytime I hear Justin Sun, there's just another rug being pulled. So I don't know. King Arthur says, any opinion about using Coinbase Vault? I know people who have done it and have been very, happy with it. Haven't seen, anything beyond that. Uphold, interesting. I've had an Uphold account, but primarily it was to get XRP. So there you go. First, make Coinbase case over, and I think we'll get it all fixed. Well, that may happen soon with the number of L's that we're seeing coming out of the SEC, for sure. Justin Sun, again, dude is a bad actor. Coinstock would be interesting with BlackRock partnership. Well, I think it is a good partnership because they're the custody for BlackRock. Do you think Solana will retrace the memes? I don't know. I think if we see liquidity move into base, imagine what could happen with the memes over there. Think about that. I mean, you look at everything from Brett to Base NG, etc., that could start to take off. William says, Paul, what do you think about these token unlocks, DOT, AVAX, Beam? I'd like to load up on more AVAX and Beam, but I don't want to get dumped on. I think this is a good statement, William, because this is something that I think a lot of people don't understand, is tokenomics do matter. And if you're aware of doing your own research, and you should be, get out there and understand when these token unlocks are occurring and why, and then step back and look at the project and try to understand the tokenomics and make a decision of whether or not you believe that project has validity going, to the next level. And that could be gaming, it could be, AI, it could be just, everything from DePIN, you name the area that you might be interested. So, but listen, you guys are you grown-ups out there. If you're watching our channel, you've got a little bit of savvy on the game. You understand a little bit about politics and a little bit about technology and a little bit about finance. And if you're doing that, you're already educating yourself. You're in a good place to make these kinds of decisions for yourself, which is what it means to be self-sovereign, which is why crypto is so important for all of you guys. So, and I think you guys get that. Anyway, it makes you confident about Coinbase will not freeze when the market spikes. It doesn't make me confident that will happen. I think it will happen with Robinhood. I think it will happen with Binance. I think it will happen with Coinbase. The only place it won't happen, but there's not, outside of going into, well, there is liquidity. There's DeFi. DeFi will most likely be the one place that you'll see plenty of support there. 73K by next week. Wow. Okay, that's a big one. Let me jump to the chart real quick, and I'll try to see what you see. Let me go over to my chart, which is not flowing a little bit. I'm on my on a different one here. I'm not logged in here, so I'm in. Yeah, let me get into. Hang on, let me get to interesting. I'm not logged in. Otherwise, I would get you into that. So, which is weird for me not to be logged in this screen because normally we're in charts. But if you guys are not in the diamond circle, make sure and jump in on that because I actually do a lot of these kinds of analysis that I drop into our diamond circle, which goes into our email list. So I'll do additional analysis, podcasts, a little bit more insight, even so, on what I'm thinking around not only the macro side, some of our own research, the political implications that are playing into this, which I think are huge and maybe have not played out completely just yet. So one thing you guys have to do is you got to vote. Whoever it's going to be for, I hope that they are pro-crypto. That's the only thing I ask of you is making sure they are pro-digital assets. All right, if you guys are not following me on X, make sure and do that. And we'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.